First, let me say thank you so much for blessing us with another installment of what's going on inside of your kooky head. Yeah. I enjoyed this so much, such a fan. When we talk about Jasmine being so many people's entree into romance, that's true. And I'm here as an author in conversation with you, but also as an incredible fan of yours.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this with me. And thank you all so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Yes, you all, we are going to have a time.
We're going to have a time.
But let me just say, Jasmine isn't going to be the only person I'm going to be asking questions to, okay? Just so you know, I'm starting off with you all. And I would like to know if anyone is brave enough. And if not, if you're like Avery, I'll give you a push.
Yeah.
What is the best pickup line you've ever received? Who's ever been picked up? Who gets picked up?
Yeah.
In
Oh, I feel like someone's got a hand up over
Yes.
here.
Oh, tell me. Yes. Oh. Was that for real? Are you married?
No, there were other red flags.
Tell that again so that anyone who didn't hear can hear.
Oh, the pickup line is, let me take you to the bookstore, and then he dropped $200 on hardcovers.
Hardcovers, baby. Hardcovers.
Hardcovers.
He got money.
Hardcovers.
He got money. Oh my gosh. Okay, one more pickup line. I would have absolutely given up the cookies for that.
Yeah.
Sorry. I hate to break it to you. Yes, ma'am.
I use this on my now husband.
Ooh, yeah.
Which in my online dating profile, I had swipe right if you vote left.
Oh, baby, in these times?
Yeah.
In this economy?
Yeah.
Genius.
Yes.
Genius. Thank you all. This isn't the last question that I'm posing to you all, so get your arms ready. I'm just going to start calling out whoever has like the best hairdo, like in the back. So my first question is to you. Ms. Jasmine, do you know how to flirt?
I mean, yes. Sometimes I can be a little shy, like Avery.
Okay.
But, again, like Avery at the beginning of the book, you give me maybe a glass or two of rosé. And
That's
yes.
excellent. I mean,
Because also, I will say, sometimes you can know things, but not feel quite ready to implement them. But yeah, sometimes, I know some things.
oh, baby. Speaking of Avery, just hopping right back into like Avery and Taylor, this is a sapphic romance.
Yes.
This is, the girls are getting their happily ever after.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, what brought you to writing this steamy sapphic romance at this kind of stage?
I knew for a while that I wanted to write one, and then Avery and Taylor were both characters in my last book, Drunk on Love, and kind of as soon as I had written both of them, I was like, oh yeah, they're perfect for this. And partly because I'd had little bits of ideas for, I had an idea for a character who ended up, once I had wrote Taylor for the first time, I was like, Taylor is that, this is who that is. And so then it ended up being really fun to think about what their story would be, how these two people who are very much opposites would come together, and what they would, because I feel like for me, the biggest thing in any romance is thinking about the two main characters and why they will fall in love. What about this person will make the other person fall in love with them, and vice versa? And I kind of figured that out very quickly with Avery and Taylor. And so that also made it fun that I kind of knew that, but had to give little drips about it along the way.
Yeah. One of the things that I also love is the mechanism by which they fall in love. I love to have a little thing that these characters do. Like in Sex, Lies, and Sensibility, they were running. But here they're dancing, and it's just so physically intimate.
Yes.
And I'm wondering about, one, how you came to use dancing as this methodology for them to come together. And did you learn how to salsa?
Okay, so first of all, I was in ballet from a very young age.
She's like,
and
oh,
so I've learned lots of kinds of dances. Am I good at salsa? Like, I can, once I get into it, I can be, but I'm not an expert, let's put it that way.
Are we
but
gonna
I
have salsa in
actually,
here?
but I, like, when I started thinking about kind of what the different flirting lessons would be, I kind of brainstormed a whole list of things. And some of them were like things that I thought of or stuff I thought like might be fun to do. But then I also saw other things that gave me ideas. And so I saw a thing in Oakland where I live about queer salsa dancing. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm using that. And so that's like where I got the idea for that.
Oh, I love that. So it wasn't Dirty Dancing 2 Havana Nights.
Well, no, but I will say dance movies have been ingrained in my soul from the beginning. Like, I've watched Dirty Dancing many times, as we were just talking about backstage. Any movie with Channing Tatum where he's dancing. Movies with Channing Tatum where he's not dancing? You really need to see Channing Tatum not dance. Like, come on now. We all need, like, give us a little something, Channing. So yes, any dance movie, I'm there. Yeah.
What?
Even
No,
even
say it.
that Julia Stiles when she does the.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm
It's
sorry.
so bad, you
We
guys. Have you gone back and watched it recently?
No,
It's so bad,
no.
but you can't stop watching.
We're not too much on Save the Last Dance, ma'am. Okay, that movie raised me. Okay? Ooh, I know the dance. I know the dance that got her into Juilliard to this day. Okay, that moved me. I can't believe you used that as a counterexample.
I mean, look, it's an incredible movie. Is she a good dancer? No.
Wow, I'm taking off my earrings because not too much on. Okay, no, this.
Oh, see, yeah.
It doesn't want to be
Yeah,
here.
it doesn't
want
wanna
to
be.
be here. Okay, so I love this notion of dancing, but also lessons. That's one of my favorite tropes in general. When there is a student and a teacher, let me show you how to do this, because there's so much fodder for intimacy. Can you talk a little bit about? Honestly, I find it quite vulnerable for someone to say, "Teach me."
Yes.
And sexy at the same time.
Which is also why it took Avery like a number of accidental glasses of rosé to get to the point at the beginning of the book where this is the first scene of the book, I'm not spoiling anything, to agree to flirting lessons with Taylor, and then she tried to change her mind real fast because of that, because of admitting that she's wrong about something, having like someone else judge her for what she's doing, like all of that seems very scary. And I also I like that even though Taylor is teaching Avery something, they're still equals. There's not a imbalance between the two of them, and so and it also sort of helps them. They know each other a little bit at the beginning of the book, but they really get to know each other throughout the flirting lessons.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that I find really interesting is you mentioned this is opposites attract, and Avery has a lot of interiority, but Taylor's brash personality. It has a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
And in the end, you find that they're much more alike than even they thought.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? I guess that wasn't a question. I'm just this was just a kiki.
I know, but I like that.
But just speaking of that moment of incredible vulnerability, this is a question for you all now. Have you all ever asked someone for help with something that you just couldn't do? Maybe it was not flirting. Maybe it was teach me how to make out. But have you ever paused to say, I actually don't know how to do this? Someone please help me, and maybe let's hope they're hot. Anyone? I can't see with this light.
Oh, I see it.
Oh,
I
yes,
see a
ma'am.
hand up here.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm embarrassed because I'm vulnerable.
Yes.
Yes.
When I was
Really?
At 33. So at 33 years old, I had to have a younger man of that, teach me how to kiss. I skipped kissing.
Wow.
I love this.
Yeah.
This is a great
Love
story.
That's me being vulnerable.
Kissing lessons.
Yes.
That is definitely a book I would read.
I would read that book.
Was there another hand? Did I miss up here? There's like a lot.
Yeah, I see you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, when I was 16, I pretended that I didn't know how to braid hair because a boy that I liked had a sister, and I wanted him to braid my hair.
Oh. Got your man, though.
Yeah.
Got your man. So, in summation, lessons work.
Yeah, lessons work. Yeah.
Lessons work. But that's that point, right? Because there's a moment of saying, like being supplicant to someone and saying, like, you know this more than I do.
Yeah.
But also, Taylor has a bit. Taylor also has to create some vulnerability and essentially not do the thing that
She's real good at.
that she's very good at, right? And I'm wondering a little bit about these two characters, just putting them next to each other and thinking about how they kind of slowly weave together in your writing brain.
Yeah, you know, I knew, like, I had little bits of Taylor, like I knew her energy really well. But I kind of, writing the book, I had to really figure out, like, what brought her to Napa Valley, what brought her to the job that she's at now, who were her friends, what was her connection to this area, and in doing that, I sort of figured out a whole lot about her, and Avery I knew because she was a little bit of a bigger character in Drunk on Love, and I knew why she was what she was doing there and why she was there. But like sort of figuring each of them out and their connections to the community, because actually, like, Avery, though she grew up in Napa Valley, has less of a community than Taylor does. And kind of thinking about that, like how that came to be, why that is, what Taylor did to sort of create that community for herself, really made me think these two characters through a lot.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Speaking of community, particularly of Taylor's community, can you tell me a little bit about what went into building this romance with two female characters versus a male and female, or two males?
I think there were two big differences in writing my other books. The one is just mostly just like a craft thing, which is when you are writing, especially because my books are third person. So when you are writing from third person, two characters who both use she, her pronouns, and you're trying to identify who said everything and who is doing what, it is real challenging because especially in scenes where like one person is touching each other, do you have to keep saying their names over and over again? Like, how do you make that clear? So that became a challenge, like that I hadn't really anticipated. And then another thing which was much kind of easier in this book is that I feel like in general, I write through the female gaze. And so when I am like writing through the perspective of a man, I kind of have to change things and figure things out and think harder, and I did not have to do that. Even though Taylor and Avery are two very different people, like that was much easier.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of that, when we think about crafting and like the aspect of like you, the author, I'm also wondering about something that I feel like you did beautifully was craft these incredibly complex secondary relationships in the book. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about this community of Avery's and how there's this found family aspect also this community of Taylors, and there's this found family aspect for Avery as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, one of the things that I think about so much in every book is who are their friends. And I'm always thinking about the main characters and their relationships to their friends and their family. And so in thinking.
Can I pause you right there because I find that so interesting. Why is that important for the character, like for you to understand this character, who their friends and family are?
I mean, I sort of feel like when you meet the people that are in real life, when you meet the people that are most important to anyone, you can see who they are, right? You can see so much of when it's their family, what built them, whether they're close to them or not, like the relationship between them. When it's their friends, how long have they been friends? Who are these people? What are they like? And so I think all of those things really play into who someone really is. And so I think about that in real life, but also in books, in building a character, in thinking, is this someone who has a lot of friends?
Yeah.
Is this someone who has a handful of tight friendships? What is their where did their friendships come from? Have they been longtime friends or short? What's their relationship with their family? These are all things that I'm really thinking about early in the book. Right. And even if there's certain things that I kind of know about Taylor and Avery and their relationships with their families that didn't end up in the book, but I kind of need to know about it anyway. Yeah. And I also need to I know people who have a sort of sheet that they build early on of questions that they answer for their characters. I can never really do that. I just have to write a really bad first draft and figure it all out on the page. And then once I do that, I'm like, oh, okay, yes, now I get it. And then certain things make it into the book and other things don't. But I knew that Taylor had a lot of friends and that, some of them were people that she dated before and some of them weren't. And, she had, and some of them were really tight friendships. And that Avery wanted to make more friends. It's not just that she wants to learn how to flirt. She also just wants to get out there in the world more. Have more friends that she can call and hang out with, but she doesn't quite know how to get there.
Yeah. You actually have drawn out one of the larger themes that I want to talk about, is that flirting becomes this little shorthand, this little tricky trick thing that you do for actually just going out into the world and just taking a bite of it, grabbing it by the fat of its stomach and saying, "I'm here." And I love that. That you've challenged your characters like this, but also this theme of just going for it. And why do you feel like it's not that romance is the best vehicle for this, but I find that theme very often in romance. And I'm wondering what you think about this sense of hey, live your life, go for it, try this thing. You don't know what would happen. And why do you feel like that theme is oftentimes so at home in romance?
That's a great question, because I think you're right. That theme is very at home in romance. And I think partly it's because in romance we're thinking and writing so much about relationships. And so it's, yes, the primary romantic relationship is the big one that you're thinking and writing about in the book, but other relationships are so important. And so you're kind of thinking about, who these people are and how they grow throughout the book and how they change. And so I think that, connection to relationships and how they matter in your life and how, what kind of, and I also feel like romance is often at a time when, they're kind of written at a time when you might be at a crossroads, when the characters might be at a crossroads. And so sometimes that is about taking risks and making efforts that you hadn't in the past.
I love it. That's beautiful. One question to the audience. We're talking about relationships and we're talking about friendship groups. And I wonder if anyone has ever either broken up with someone because of the company that they keep, or maybe started to like someone because of the company they keep. Has a friend group ever changed your mind? Oh, yes.
Oh, they're coming with the mic.
We all want to hear this.
So mine's on the positive end. It was someone that I knew already. Just we kind of lived in the same area, kind of went to the same places, and I never really thought too much about him past like just somebody in my community. But then I found out I actually knew a mutual friend of his, and that mutual friend was someone that I respected a lot, valued their opinion. They were someone that could see the good in just about anyone. And so, you know, they would talk about this person that we both knew, and the way they just spoke so highly of them, not like highly of them as if they were trying to set us up, but just this person, just such a good person. You know, they showed up for me when this happened. They're just this person or that. And I was like, let me see what they have going on.
Yeah.
So.
I love that.
Yeah, I love this.
What a lovely story. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'll say being in the Divine Nine Greek environment can bring you around different people. But that is a whole nother thing. But I find that as we get older, the men also can get older and can mature more too. So being in the friend groups, definitely defining more just the friendship, just being more lax, you know, having the get-togethers and just building that. And then it's kind of like one day, I think he's actually now flirting with me. We have this friendship, but I think he's actually now flirting with me, but already having a genuine connection first.
Yeah.
I think that really helped because there was no pressure about it. And so the flirting became more natural, became actually kind of silly, just made me laugh.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of when they slide in like, hey, let me take you out. And then you're kind of like, okay, I'll try it. You know, we've been able to vibe already in these other settings. Let's see how, you know, it works on a one-on-one case.
And so the fact that he had this network of friends, that was a bonus. You're like,
yeah,
oh,
that we
I
had
know.
like this mutual, and that we could already hang, you know, play games, eat, all that.
Was it an alpha?
No, it's actually not an alpha.
Just tell me in my ear, girl. Tell me in my ear, girl. Tell me very softly in my ear.
No, he's a member of the Crimson and Cream.
Okay. Okay. Bless you, bless your ministry. That's so nice. They named it twice. Okay. Congratulations. That's excellent. That's fantastic. When we think about this network, something else that to me really seemed like its own character, its own space was Napa. I'm by nature a belligerent wine mom.
Oh, good.
So I loved this aspect, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about like setting and how you kind of made setting a part of this story as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't live in Napa Valley, but I live about an hour away, and so my mother is very much a belligerent wine mom, and has taught me everything I know about wine. And also, like, even though my mother would not call herself a flirt, my mother taught me a lot about flirting. For instance, a friend of mine was recently going to a winery in Napa Valley, and she was like, oh, they don't have any appointments. And I was like, oh, let me see if my mom can get you in. And my mom could get her in. And then when she was there, my mom texted me to tell her, like, ask them for some of this wine, which is not on the list. And they said, like, oh, well, anything for a friend of Donna Guillory. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do we need a story time on your mom?
Yeah. So I go to Napa a lot with my mom.
Okay.
And also I was there a lot during the pandemic because first of all, like, wineries could stay open because they were, not like ones that had a lot of them had outside seating. And
alcohol
then,
is
yeah, right.
It's antibacterial.
Alcohol material. And like once things opened up a little bit more, it was like we actually had, except for when there were fires, there was lovely weather in California for most of the pandemic. So like you could spend time outside. And so I kind of spent a lot of time thinking about what what was life like for people who lived and worked in Napa Valley? Because I think when you live, I mean, anything, people who live in DC can relate to this in some ways. Like when you live in a place where people come as tourists, what is different in your connection to that place, and then what is similar, what brought you there? And so that was something that I thought a lot about, and I started kind of asking a lot of questions every time I went wine tasting about so how long have you worked here? What brought you to Napa? Have you ever organized one of these parties? What's it like? That kind of stuff. And so that gave me a lot of fuel for, not just what the setting looked like, but what it kind of felt like.
Yeah, I love that. Was there anything in particular, maybe without spoilers, but what was your favorite thing to write? What was your favorite scene, favorite aspect?
This is going to be a spoiler, so I'm not going to say the scene, but when people get to it, the midterm scene was very fun to write.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're reading something and you can tell there's she's in her bag right now. Yeah. When you get there, you will say, oh, okay, I see. Yeah. I see what you're doing there. That's great. So I want to make sure we have time for reader questions, but I do want to ask you about what is coming next. I think you're one of these authors that is always trying something new, doing something different, and also demanding things of their characters that sometimes we don't often see. So I'm really curious to know what's coming up for you.
I'm working on the next thing. I'm still in the relatively
in the universe.
No, actually, but I am going to come back to it. Don't worry.
Okay.
But it is a little bit of a departure for me, but I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. So fingers crossed. Yeah. There will be dancing in it. I can promise you that.
Ballet.
A few different kinds of dancing. Let's put it that way.
Okay, man. Okay. Okay, so we are at, it's almost 7:50. Wow. Let's open it up for questions, y'all. Let's see what questions we have for Miss Jasmine. Yes? I
think they're coming. Are they coming down with the mic?
Oh, can I just stand here?
Yep, go for it.
Oh, wow.
All right. Hi, I'm Tyler.
Okay, hi.
It's like a 3-part.
I can't really see you, but I can hear you. Yeah. So, because you're
Okay.
right by the light, just so you know.
I have like a 3-part question.
Okay.
If you could pick any of your books to be a movie, a mini-series, a limited series, and a TV show with only 5 seasons, because we gotta end them, which ones would you pick? So 4.
Okay, wait. So, am I picking between movie, TV series, limited series, all those things also?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
Take your time.
The pressure.
Okay. I would love While We Were Dating to be a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's set in Hollywood and it feels very cinematic to me. And I think other of my books are could be kind of different stuff, but I think that one would be great for a movie. So I love that question though.
Hi.
Hi.
So haven't read the book yet, but really looking forward to it. And I hope I'm not making assumptions, but at least based on the cover, I'm curious. It felt, at least based on the cover, that the book just felt, at least to me, really specific and really close to home, in the sense that I'm presuming, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it's 2 feminine Black women who fall in love. And I mentioned that, assuming I'm not wrong, because you really don't see that as much in life within the Black LGBT community and the Black lesbian and Black queer women community in particular. And as someone who runs a meetup group for feminine Black women who are into other feminine Black women in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, that was just really something that caught my eye, and I'm just so happy you seem to be part of a wave of romance writers that's not only writing fiction between two Black Sapphic women, but between two feminine Black Sapphic women, which again is rare. So I was just curious if there was a specific impetus for that, representation-wise.
Avery is definitely very feminine. Taylor is a little less so. But I did, I always feel like people ask me questions about representation a lot, and I don't really, that's not something that I consciously think about, partly because I naturally want to represent the world that I live in and the world that I see. And so when I thought of Avery and Taylor, and then also their friends in their queer community, I wanted to have people who felt like they would be friends with each other, people who felt like they would be in that community together. And people who I recognized, both, having known them or people like them or been them or, whatever. And so that's sort of why I kind of thought of who Avery and Taylor were and then what their community would look like. Thank you. I feel like you have a good book club book for your meetup. Excellent.
Hi. I'm also really looking forward to reading the book. I'm a longtime fan of yours, really excited that you wrote a sapphic romance. Obviously, everything you've written thus far has been mainly straight romance books, and so I'm curious what sort of inspiration, research did you draw from to accurately portray two women in a relationship? Because, and I mean, particularly with sex, it is a different experience having sex between women as opposed to women and a man. So I'm curious, what sort of research and stuff did you do to make sure it was accurate?
Yeah.
That was not what I meant.
Story time. Well, I'm not going to address a specific part of that. But I mean, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I went to Wellesley College. Let's cheer for Wellesley. And so I feel like I have been doing research all my life. Things like that.
Thank you. I'm Aisha, and earlier you mentioned that you don't write down questions to answer throughout the book, that's not your process. I wanted to know more about your process. Do you start an outline, for aspiring authors in the crowd? How do you get started, and also how do you write without thinking and worrying about what your audience will like, but rather, write for yourself and let the audience come?
Yeah, I'll sort of answer the end of that first. I think partly, I mentioned writing bad first drafts, and I think that kind of helps me, because when I write a first draft, I don't go back. I just charge full steam ahead, which ends up being, the first draft is very messy. I write a number of scenes over and over again, and things change a lot. I'll kind of realize that a character needs to be there, and so and needs to have been there the whole way through, and so I'll just add her and then keep writing as if she'd been there, and then make a note put more in the beginning about this character. And so I think that kind of helps, because I'm trying just not to think about anything other than what the story is initially. I also feel like I went through, I think people sort of talk about the second book syndrome, where you kind of have the audience in your head. I didn't really deal with that until my third book, mostly because I wrote my first two books before I had a book out. And so then when I was writing my third book, I, sort of had some of that in my head, this is different than what people liked, and will they be, and then I kind of realized the only person who I can satisfy is myself when I am writing. I have no idea how any reader is gonna think about anything that I write, and so I just have to make this book something that I like and that I'm proud of. And so that helped me sort of like try to get the audience out of my mind and just keep going. As for my process, I always have an outline. Sometimes they are lengthy, sometimes they're very short. I have tried to write without an outline and have realized that I cannot do that. But I need a beginning, and I kind of need to know what happens in the first like 5 or so chapters to kind of get me through that beginning push. Because then at that point, I'll kind of figure out more. And then I need to have a sort of idea of a middle and a sort of idea of an end in order to start. There are some books that I have like had much more lengthy outlines, but always, and like sometimes that's, sometimes that's what I need to start a book. Invariably though, things in my outlines will change. Like I will always start writing and figure things out about a character and realize, oh, they would never do that. And then, kind of make changes to the outline as I go.
And I just wanted to double click on something that you said about like writing that draft. And like if anyone out here is an aspiring writer, one of the number one things that aspiring writers tend to get stuck on is that delta between like what you want to create and like what you've actually created.
100%.
And sometimes you let yourself stop because the thing that you've produced is nowhere near like what has happened in your imagination. Like this doesn't sound like Stephen King at all, But writing is nothing but rewriting and constantly moving forward. So like get that shitty first draft out. It is going to help you build the thing that you actually want. Like don't be afraid of the delta.
And I also feel like every writer, though, has this experience in every single book, though, where because you have just like, especially when you have finished a book and you're like, see, look at that beautiful book in all print. Look at this terrible Word document that I have. Because, I mean, this is like, this was like draft maybe 12. But when you're writing that first draft, it feels like, I don't know how to do this anymore. This is terrible in comparison to this. Or like you're reading finished books and you're like, this thing I'm writing is nothing like that. It can get there. You just have to like give it something to get it there.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling this to myself too as I speak. It can get there.
Is it?
Hi, my name is Isabel. Love your universe and everything you've created. You've talked a lot about how you think about the community and how that brings the inspiration for the characters, and how, so we met Avery in the last book and you had the idea for Taylor before. So I was wondering, can you give us a number or an estimate of characters you've introduced or thought about that you want to expand upon for future books?
There's at least one that I know that I'm going to write a book about. Probably more like 2, but also maybe more, because the thing is that sometimes I don't know until, like, for instance, I was just telling the story recently. When I wrote The Wedding Date, and that was I'd written other books before, but that was the book that got me my agent and my first publishing deal. And so when I was initially talking to agents, when they had when I'd reached out to them and they'd reached back out, had read the book and were talking about and asking oh, what else are you working on? Do you have any ideas for future books? And at that point, my idea for the next book was what became The Wedding Party. And so, I told them about it and they were like, okay, I like that. That sounds good. Have you thought about a book about Carlos? Just a question. I just was thinking maybe you could write a book about Carlos. And at that point, I had, I loved writing Carlos in The Wedding Date, but I did not have the right idea for him for another book. And so I was like, oh, well, yeah, I like Carlos, and they were like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then months later, I thought of the idea for Carlos. So there's probably other people that I might have the perfect idea for at some point that I just don't know yet.
Hey. Hi, I'm in the middle.
Okay.
Chica here. I want to make a plug for our Love in Color book club that happens through the DC Public Library, where we read women of color authors. Yay. It happens virtually. Shout out to Angel Mary, because she's the one that facilitates it every month. And both of you, I feel like we read both of y'all books at some point, so I'm curious for the both of you. 2 questions. One, who are some other contemporary romance authors that y'all love to read? And then the second question I have is, like, what are some tropes that you really, really love to see in these contemporary romances? And maybe a last question, what tropes do you not like? Which ones do you feel like they're overplayed in the contemporary romance spaces? So 3 questions.
Okay, I don't think this one is overplayed, but my least favorite trope, secret baby. Secret baby. Yeah.
I have a lot of least favorite tropes.
Tell us about them.
But currently now, my least favorite trope is hovering at, this is gonna like hurt some feelings, but I have some problems with like best friends to lovers, like people who've like known each other all their lives, like grew up together and then just like turned around and like, oh, turns out you do have a magical tip. Like, let's date. I can't. Like, you gotta wake up pretty early in the morning to make me buy that you never saw this. You know, this is neither here nor there. But yeah, so long time best friends to lovers is just a hard crunch for me. But
as for other authors that I love, obviously Kennedy Ryan, Tia Williams, Christina Forrest, Alexis Daria. I'm in the midst of her next book that comes out next month, I think. It's great.
Alexis Daria?
Along Came Amor, yeah, it's great. It's about like the oldest cousin, which had a lot of like sort of oldest sister vibes that I relate to very much as an oldest sister. There are so many more that I'm blanking on right now. Oh, Maya Ariel, her newest one just came out last week, No Ordinary Love. It's very like Mariah Carey, Derek Jeter inspired. Yeah.
I am personally obsessed with Regina Black.
Oh yeah, we talked about this. Yes.
She also has a new like Black country book coming up.
Ooh.
And it is just so sultry. It is just so good. I love Danica Neva also.
Yeah, and her new book is coming this summer?
It's this summer, right?
I think so, yeah.
July.
Oh, July. Yeah.
Look at that.
See, there we go.
Look at us. And I have been reading. Of course, I love a Danielle Allen. Do you know what I mean? I love a Danny. You know. I've just read so much of her backlist. I have one of my toxic traits is Kenya Wright over and over and over, but not just any book, like the one book Redemption. I have read it maybe 4 times already. I don't know why, but yeah, Kenya Wright, I love her.
I feel like there was a question in there that we missed.
Yeah.
Favorite trope. I mean, look, fake dating. It has my heart forever. I love it so much. I love it.
Fake dating will always hit.
Yeah.
It will always hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little bit trash for enemies to lovers. Like, just a little bit like...
Well, okay. I'm now going to put Nikki on the spot.
Okay.
This is... tell your story.
Okay. Now, this is the true story of how I came to know and love my husband. Okay? We were park rangers working at Valley Forge National Park.
Enemy park rangers.
We were enemy park rangers. We were supposed to do a talk on like the role of Black folks in the American Revolution, and I actually took my job seriously and actually did it. And he did a presentation on guns. All kinds of guns in the American Revolution. I'm like, what does this have to do with like the Negro struggle, sir? Like, what are we doing? He's like, they had guns. And so I'm so mad. Everyone is going to his session. No one wants to hear about like the real shit, okay? And we were working with these like eco-friendly trucks, like these Ford had like donated these eco-friendly trucks, and of course, because the nature of the National Park Service, we had 2 trucks and then it became 1. So we had to share our tour and combine our tour together.
I mean, this is a romance novel right here.
And yeah, we are 20 years later. We're still enemies to lovers to this day. Yeah, that's good. It's a solid trope. It's a solid trope. There's a question here. She's been very patient.
I think that'll be the last question up there so that we have time to sign.
I know, she's been waiting, so we'll let her go after this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
Hey, Shannon.
You mentioned that you know things about your characters' backstories that don't make it into the book. Can you give us some examples, either from the characters in this book or other books?
With Avery, she has sort of a not difficult relationship with her mom, but her relationship, like she sort of feels like she has to be perfect for her mom. And in earlier drafts, there was sort of a lot about that kind of in the beginning, and then it just felt like it kind of messed with the flow of the book, and so I kind of pulled some of that. With Taylor, I know that she has a very big, messy but like loving family, which I understand because I have a big, messy but loving family. Oh, yay, see? That was her question.
That's it.
Okay, yay! Wait, before we finish, I have to take a little video of you guys. All right, yay! Yay!
So signing will happen up on the 5th floor. Library closes at 9. We don't want to rush anybody, but just keep that in mind.
Oh, and one more thing. I brought a copy of the book for me that I'm going to want all of you to sign. So it's going to be at my signing table. So when you're like in line, you can sign it, and it'll have a like little sign me sticker on it. So.